My name is Avery Lee. I am 33. I am the younger daughter who is told to stay quiet and be useful. My mother, Judith Lee, says, I am there to serve, not to be seen. My sister, Cass Hamilton, is the golden one with the perfect feed and the perfect guest list. I'm the background she orders into place. My mother always treats me like unpaid staff. When the crisis of wedding season hits, she doubles down. At a planning dinner on April 10, she announces that I will play light piano for 1 hour at cocktail hour, not a request a statement. The next morning, she emails a playlist and writes, keep it unobtrusive, keep it pleasant, keep it quiet. She copies Cass and the Hamilton family. The venue is set for May 18 at Westbrook Hill Manor in New York. My role, according to her, is free labor and silence. They have no idea what I am building in the dark. By day, I am a certified public accountant and a certified fraud examiner in Manhattan. I track money timelines and proof for a living. By night, I rebuild my hands and my ear. I am writing an original piece that carries my life inside it. I document every message and receipt. I form an LLC to protect my work. I prepare filings with the proper agencies, and I coordinate lawful steps for the right public moment. I do all of this quietly with the same calm I bring to an audit. This is not about revenge. This is about respect, boundaries, and truth. It is about never letting someone define you as background again. Subscribe now before you hear the ending that no one in my family sees coming, and remember, they still do not know what I am building. I grow up in Queens, then in a quiet suburb north of the city. My mother is Judith Lee, 64 now. In public, she is gracious and exact. At home, she manages everything, like a director who expects a perfect take on the first try. My father is Henry Lee, 66. He is a tax attorney who believes calm is cheaper than conflict. He loves me, but he loves quiet more. My sister is Cass, 2 years older. She is now Cass Hamilton. She has a glossy life, a fast career in public relations, and an audience that approves on command. By 4, I sit at a piano bench every day. By 6, I read scores that neighbors call advanced. At 16, I walk onto a national stage and freeze. I walk off in silence. The car ride home is a blur. My mother tells me she has wasted 12 years on me. I shut the piano, finish high school, and choose a different path. I enroll at a state university. I study accounting. I passed the CPA exam in 2015. I earned the CFE in 2019. I learn to make myself useful in ways that no one claps for. I become the reliable one. I show up with spreadsheets, receipts, and calm. The golden child pattern is not a mood. It is a ledger. Example 1. July 2012. My parents pay $5,000 for a leadership camp for Cass. When I ask for a $500 theory seminar in the city, my mother calls it a hobby and says no. Example 2. May 20, 2016. My graduation week. I get a card with $50 and a line about being practical. The next month, Cass gets a $10,000 bridge loan for a move to a nicer apartment near her new job. Example 3. September 2019. Cass gets a leased SUV with the down payment gifted as a surprise. In December, my used sedan dies. I get a lecture on budgeting and a link to a bus schedule. Example 4. January 2, 2023. My mother emails me and says, we need you to do our taxes again. She adds that a professional would be too expensive. I reply with a list of forms and deadlines. She replies, thank you, there is no please. The pattern continues in small ways that drain energy. In February this year, a cold snap knocks out my parents' heat. I put $2,300 on my card for the repair. I get reimbursed 6 weeks later after a reminder. In March, I spent a Saturday on hold with a cable company to fix a billing error. I saved them $300 and an early termination fee. In early April, I review the wedding budget Cass made in a shared sheet. Her formulas are off. The totals are wrong by $7,400. I correct the errors and send a clean version. She sends back a heart emoji. That one icon is the only thank you I get. I am dependable because I cannot stand chaos. I am quiet because yelling does not move numbers. I am practical because no one else is. When Cass needs a caption that sounds authentic, she texts me for a draft. When our parents misplace a property tax bill, I drive over and put the notice on the fridge. When a vendor for the wedding needs a W-9, my mother forwards me the thread and writes, please handle. I do. I save the thread. I file the W-9 in a folder with the subject line, Wedding Admin. The approval I receive is a lack of complaint. That approval is conditional on my silence. Cass is praised for being luminous. I am valued when I am invisible. My mother uses the word contribution when she means obedience. She says every family member must do their part. She means do it my way and do it for free. When the April 10 planning dinner arrives, she announces that I will provide light piano for 1 hour during cocktail hour. Not a request. A statement. The next day, she emails a playlist and writes the words, "Keep it unobtrusive. Keep it pleasant. Keep it quiet." She copies Cass and the Hamiltons. The wedding date is May 18 at Westbrook Hill Manor in New York. I see the role she has assigned me. Background, unpaid, replaceable. I have learned to keep my face still. Calm buys room to think. I do what I always do. I document. I save the email with full headers. I export the calendar invites. I keep a timesheet of tasks I complete for the family. I also log the small digs that become heavy with repetition. My mother tells a florist that I am very good at emails, so she will run point. Cass posts a story that reads live music by family during cocktails. She does not tag me. At a tasting, a vendor asks if I am the planner. My mother smiles and says she is just helping. I pour water into my own glass and remind myself that a file is better than a fight. It helps that my day job trains me to think in sequences. I work in Manhattan on complex reviews. I write memos that build from fact to finding. I handle timelines and tie-outs. I live in proof. I bring that same discipline home. I keep a slim folder in my bag. The front tab says piano. It holds practice notes and a one-page outline for an original composition. The second tab says family. It holds receipts, emails, and a clean list of every task I perform. The third tab says protection. It holds my credit monitoring enrollment, a copy of my annual reports, and step-by-step guides for fraud response. I carry the folder everywhere. It weighs less than old expectations. Cass occupies a different world. She is a public relations executive with an influencer brand that features workwear wellness and curated ease. She is 35. She is good at being seen. Her feed shows fittings venue walkthroughs and sponsor lunches. She partners with a beauty brand for the wedding week. She calls it the season of joy. Her future husband is Richie Hamilton Jr., 36, the son of a family that runs the Hamilton Arts Foundation. His mother, Patricia Hamilton, 66, chairs the board. The foundation funds museums and music programs. It is old money with a glossy public sheen. My mother calls this an elevation for our family. She uses the word legacy often. She does not use my name when she talks about music. She simply says, family talent will add a personal touch. I do not envy Cass. I understand her skill. I also understand how the house we grew up in made us. She learned to perform for praise. I learned to perform so we could avoid fire drills. She went toward the spotlight. I went toward the ledger. When the wedding becomes a production, our roles do not change, they harden. Cass floats over details. I mop them up. My mother speaks like a producer. She uses minutes and deliverables. She treats me like staff. She treats Cass like a brand. My father keeps the peace. He pays deposits and excuses. He retreats to a corner at dinners and says he is checking a deadline. He is not a villain. He is a quiet man who does not know how to stop a moving train. The pressure is familiar, but something else sits under it now. I have a second life that they do not factor into their plans. I work in the city by day. I come home and play in the evening. I do not chase perfection, I chase honesty. The piece I am writing is simple at first, then it fractures, then it finds a new form. I call it Return. The name fits. I add minutes each night and track progress like a budget 30, then 90, then 180. The metronome becomes my steady friend. I engrave a clean score. I add a faint line with my new company name at the bottom. Lee Music, LLC. It is not drama. It is protection. I file the LLC in April. I open a tiny business account. I send the score from both my personal and work emails to create a clean digital trail. I feel my shoulders drop for the first time in years. Meanwhile, I watch the wedding machine roll. Vendors book out. A string quartet confirms. The venue has a ballroom with a glass wall and a large LED screen. The coordinator knows her job. The guest list grows past 600. Donors and local officials and media friends accept. My mother calls it a moment. I hear the word pressure. I am fine. I have lived inside pressure since I was a child. The difference now is that I have control over one thing that matters to me, my hands, my story, my proof. I remain the reliable one in the ways that keep the train moving. I send the corrected budget. I align invoices to deposits in a clean grid. I draft 3 vendor emails on behalf of my mother and line up signatures. I reconcile a line item that Cass missed. I drive my parents to a final walkthrough because the valet is backed up. They thank me by not complaining. I accept it. I also stop offering more than is asked. When someone says, "Can you just," I pause. I ask, "When is the deadline?" I ask, "What is the scope?" I ask, "Who is responsible?" The questions slow the demands. They also remind me that I am not staff. Every time I sit at the keyboard, I feel the old fear standing at the door. It cannot cross the threshold if I keep my focus on the sound and not the scorecard in my mother head. I play the opening phrase of return until it steadies me. I do not tell anyone how it feels. I do not need them to approve. I need to be ready for the only moment that will matter. The moment when I am not background. The wedding date is locked. Saturday, May 18th, the planning dinner that placed me in the corner, happened on April 10. The email that called me unobtrusive arrived on April 11th. The venue is Westbrook Hill Manor in New York. The quartet ends after the ceremony. Cocktail hour begins at 5. Dinner begins at 6:30. I know the schedule because I keep the schedule. I also know that routines hide mistakes, in families, in budgets, in reputations. I do not hunt for mistakes, I notice them. I write them down. I keep them where they belong in a file, not in my voice. I close this chapter where I began, with calm and with receipts. I am the reliable one, yes. I am also the one who stays steady when the lights change. 3 weeks before the wedding, a routine credit alert on my phone turns into a line item I cannot ignore. A new account appears under my name. The number attached to it is impossible to miss. The timeline I keep for everyone else is about to become my own. But they do not know what I am building. That is when everything changes. 3 weeks before the wedding, a routine credit alert on my phone lights up my screen. It is Saturday, April 27, 9:06 a.m. Queens, new line of credit. $120,000 opened in my name. I sit very still. I do not call anyone. I open my laptop, pull my reports, and confirm the entry. The application uses my social security number and my address history. The merchant category shows event deposits. I feel the old heat rise in my neck, then I let it pass. I switch to process mode. I file an FTC identity theft report online and save the PDF to a folder called Protection. I drive to the local precinct and file a police report. The number is 24-5118. I ask the officer to include the disputed account and the approximate open date. I request a copy and check that my middle initial is correct. Back at my apartment, I place a freeze on Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. I add 1-year fraud alerts. I draft a factual dispute letter to the issuing bank, attach the FTC and police reports, and send it certified mail with return receipt. I scan the receipt and drop it into my folder. I log each step with a timestamp. I breathe in through my nose, out through my mouth. My hands stop shaking. I decide in that hour that I will not ask my family for help. I will not explain, plead, or perform the role of the responsible one who absorbs new harm in silence. I will become fully self-reliant. I open a notebook and write 4 lines. Protect, prove, perform, public. Those are the phases. Protect covers identity, cash, and credit. Prove covers evidence and chain of custody. Perform covers the work that is mine, my piece, my hands. Public covers lawful timed disclosures in places with witnesses. I keep the plan simple so I can follow it when the room gets loud. I withdraw and no one notices. On April 29, my mother forwards me a thread and writes, "Please handle a W-9 for a florist." I reply with a completed form and say, "Done." She does not ask how I am. Cass texts me a caption idea for a brand post and asks, "Can you make this sound grounded?" I send 2 lines and return to my checklist. My father calls about a property tax bill. I tell him the due date and the amount and that he can pay online. He thanks me in a tired voice and asks if I can stop by next week. I say I will be working late. No one asks why. Silence buys me space. I start with Protect. I move 3 months of living expenses into a separate savings account at a different bank. I enroll in account alerts for any change to my profile. I set calendar reminders to pull my credit weekly for the next 8 weeks. I open Lee Music LLC on April 29 and apply for an EIN. I open a small business bank account with a $500 deposit. I register a simple domain and a Gmail for the LLC. I am not trying to brand myself. I am building clean lines between my work and my name so I can protect both. Then I move to Prove. I list the sources I will rely on. My own records, public filings, direct observations. I will not take or store internal materials from anyone else. I download Form 990 filings for the Hamilton Arts Foundation for 2021 through 2023 from public databases. I build a side-by-side table of program and event expenses by year. I highlight a sharp increase in current year event costs. I open CAS public posts and vendor tags and list out names and dates. I note overlaps without drawing a conclusion. I save screenshots with date stamps. I do not share the file with anyone. On April 30, I get a DM from someone named Jordan Reyes, 27, who says they saw my name in a professional Slack a few months ago and followed me. Jordan works on the foundation finance team. They write that they have concerns about how certain payments are being coded. They ask if I would be willing to look at questions in general terms. I reply that I cannot receive internal documents and will not advise on their employer. I offer to describe at a high level how public filings and vendor rosters can be compared. We speak by phone for 11 minutes. Jordan does not send me anything. I take no notes on their internal details. I only note that a finance employee reached out with unease. I thank them and tell them to follow their internal policies. I hang up and lock my screen. My file stays clean. I schedule an intake with a civil attorney for May 2. We meet in a small midtown office with diplomas on the wall. I bring a neat packet, the police report, the FTC report, the bank dispute letter, my credit reports, a list of vendor deposits I never made. We talk about causes of action. The attorney says identity theft conversion and civil conspiracy are the buckets that fit the facts if we can tie the usage to a person. We discuss defendants. We focus first on Judith, who has my data and a motive to treat my labor as hers. We discuss whether to name Cass. The attorney says we should only include her if facts connect her to the credit line, not to any charity expenditure. I agree. We will not sue Cass over foundation dollars. That belongs with regulators and donors. If we name Cass, it will be for aiding and abetting identity theft or conspiracy tied to the line opened with my SSN. We choose measured language. We choose facts over heat. We talk about service. I say I want it done lawfully and quietly, but in public view to end the private gaslighting that has defined my life. The attorney outlines New York service rules. We hire a licensed process server who will coordinate with venue security for access and comply with property policies. The goal is simple. No disruption, no drama. Just a clean handoff witnessed by staff and guests during a natural pause like speeches. My attorney will handle the instructions. I will not direct anything on the day. I sign an engagement letter and pay a retainer from my savings. I walk out lighter. Now I return to perform. At night, I rebuild with intention. I track practice time like billable hours. April 27, 60 minutes. April 28, 90 minutes. April 29, 120. By May 5, I am at 180 minutes most nights. I isolate sections. I write micro goals. Left-hand triplets clean at 80 beats per minute, then at 92. Right-hand voicing even across repeated chords at mezzo piano. I write a sentence at the top of my log. Progress is proof. Perfection is not the point. The piece starts to sound like a thing that breathes. I also prepare the simple infrastructure to protect my work. I engrave the score in clean notation and add a faint line at the bottom of each page. Original composition by Avery Lee. Copyright Lee Music LLC. I send the score to my personal email and my work email to create date stamps. I upload a copy to cloud storage with version control. I write a short DMCA template to send if someone steals my audio. I am not expecting theft. I am thinking like a professional for the first time with my own art. 2 weeks out, a venue technician calls to schedule a sound check and screen test. Westbrook Hill Manor has a glass wall facing the lake and a large LED screen for slides. The tech asks for any visual I want displayed at the start of the hour. I send a plain white slide with black text. Original composition by Avery Lee. Copyright Lie Music LLC. We book a test on Wednesday, May 15 at 10 a.m. The tech confirms that he can push the slide live from the booth. I do not ask my mother. I do not tell Cass. It is my name and my work. Giving it credit is not an act of rebellion. It is a fact. I keep my day job steady and my life quiet. I get to the office early, clear my review notes, and leave on time. I eat simple food. I stretch my hands. I sleep. On May 10, I can play Return end to end without stopping. I record a rough take on my phone and listen back with headphones. The middle section needs more air. I mark a cut and open the harmony. The ending lands like a breath. I feel something I have not felt since I was a child alone at a piano bench. Not pride, not fear, just presence. With the playing on track, I move the public face forward with care. On May 14 at 9 a.m., I submit a detailed letter to the New York State Attorney General Charities Bureau through the online portal. I include only public sources, dates, and amounts, and I flag patterns for review. I add my contact information and the identity theft report numbers to show why I noticed. What I noticed. The same morning, I submit IRS Form 13909 for potential misuse of charitable assets, again relying on public data. I do not accuse individuals. I request a review of transactions that appear to align with a private event. I also reach out to a reporter at the Metro Ledger who has covered nonprofit oversight. I send nothing confidential. I share public filings, my own timeline, and the fact that I filed a complaint. The reporter requests comment from the AG press office. They set an embargo for a short push alert on May 18 after 5:30 p.m. Contingent on an on-record acknowledgement that a review is underway. I put my phone face down. At home that night, I polish the first page of return again and again. I watch my hands for tension. I remember 16-year-old me standing on a stage and forgetting how to breathe. I honor her by breathing now. Slow in, slow out. I am not performing for my mother. I am not performing for judges. I am communicating. I am telling the truth with sound. I do not share any of this with my family. When my mother sends an email on May 12 that says, "Remember to stay unobtrusive and to be punctual," I reply, "Received." When Cass texts a photo of her veil with a heart, I write, "Beautiful." When my father asks about parking, I send a map. I am present but not available. Emotional restraint is my quiet shield. Documentation is my sword. The days narrow toward the event. I keep the timeline clean. April 10, the planning dinner. April 11, the email with the word unobtrusive. April 27, the fraud alert. April 29, LLC formed. May 2, attorney retained. May 14, AG and IRS complaint submitted. May 15, sound check and LED slide test. May 18, the wedding. Each entry has a folder. Each folder has proof. On the night before the wedding, I put my score in a thin leather folder. I add the police report copy behind it. The FTC report sits behind that. I slide in the certified mail receipt to the bank. I keep the packet in my bag like a small anchor. I set 2 alarms. I lay out a simple dress. I look at my hands and feel calm. The breaking point did not break me. It built a spine I can trust. But they do not know what I am building. They think I will sit in a corner and play quietly while they network. They think I will absorb a crime because I always absorb the cost. That is when everything changes. Morning comes like a checklist. I keep the same rhythm every day so my nerves have fewer places to hide. Coffee, stretch, 10 minutes of slow scales, train to Midtown. Client review, lunch at my desk, back home by 6:30, 3 hours at the keyboard, log the minutes, log the measures that still snag. I do not chase perfect, I chase steady. The piece breathes a little more each night. The opening phrase lands without wobble. The middle storm opens up. The last page feels like air. I track practice like billable hours. April 27, 60 minutes. April 28, 90. April 29, 120. By May 5, 180 most nights. I write small targets, left-hand triplets clean at 80 beats per minute. Then 92, then 96. Voicing even across repeated chords at mezzo piano. No rush at the crest. I add a line at the top of my log. Progress is proof. I keep going. I also build a clean money base so fear cannot talk over my hands. I move $15,000 into a high-yield savings account at 4.5%. That gives me 6 months of expenses. I keep $2,000 in checking for the week. I pay the attorney retainer of $3,500 on May 2 from savings. On May 9, my firm gives me a spot bonus of $3,500 for a fraud review that saved a client $1.2 million in overbilling. The bonus fills the hole I just made. I keep my shoulders down and my budget simple. Rent, food, transit, strings for the piano, nothing else. At work, I lead a small task review that maps vendor invoices against contract language. I build a tie-out file that catches duplicate billings from a subcontractor. I send a short memo with 3 exhibits. The client thanks our team on a call and asks who found the break. My manager says Avery built the model. My inbox pings with a firm, wide note on May 8 that lists a few names for Q2 recognition. Mine is on it. A cousin sees the internal post screen grabbed on LinkedIn and forwards it to my mother. Judith calls within an hour. She says she did not know my work was that valued. Then she asks if I could look at 2 more wedding contracts tonight. I say I can check them on Saturday morning. I end the call before old habits say yes to everything. Meanwhile, Cass keeps the brand alive. Her feed looks effortless, her calendar does not. She texts me late on May 7th and asks if I can guarantee a small line with a florist because their system needs a second card for a hold. I reply that I cannot and that my credit is frozen due to a fraud case. She does not ask what happened. She replies with a sad face and a message about pressure. The next day, she posts a video about how support is everything. She tags her team. She does not tag me. I am fine with that. Support without a tag is called family when it is healthy. In our house, it was called expected. I am not playing that role anymore. I keep my plan tight. Protect, prove, perform, public. Protect stays active in the background. New alerts are off, no new fraud shows up, the certified mail receipt from the bank comes back on May 6. The bank sends a letter on May 10 that assigns a dispute case number. Prove holds steady with public filings and dated screenshots. No leaks, no internal documents. Perform gets most of my hours, the piece has bones now. I give it a name that keeps me grounded. Return, I engrave a clean score and put a faint line at the bottom. Original composition by Avery Lee, copyright Lie Music LLC. Public is planned and paste. On May 14 at 9 a.m., I submit my letter to the State Attorney General Charities Bureau through the portal. I include only public facts, dates, and amounts. I add my police report and FTC report numbers to show why I noticed the patterns. I submit IRS Form 13909 the same morning. I email the Metro Ledger reporter and share the filings and my timeline. No internal material, only public sources and my own documents. The reporter confirms an embargo for a short push alert after 5:30 p.m. on May 18, subject to an on-record acknowledgement from the AG press office. On May 16, the reporter writes that the AG office provided a general statement that multiple complaints were received and are under review. The wording is careful. That is fine. Careful is my language. That same day, I go to Westbrook Hill Manor for the sound check. The ballroom faces a lake through a wall of glass. The LED screen sits over the band riser. The tech loads my slide. White background, black text, original composition by Avery Lee. Copyright Lie Music LLC. He tests the feed. It pops up in clean type. He asks if I want the slide up at the start or at the first break. I say at the start of my piece. He nods and notes the cue. I keep my head down and my voice even. I am not hiding. I am moving with care. Patricia Hamilton walks in with a venue manager to look at a donor wall layout. I am warming up with Chopin. She stops for a minute. She listens with her arms folded. She asks me if I perform. I tell her I work in accounting. She says the foundation appreciates genuine artistry more than show. She says she hopes I will play during dinner as well. I say the quartet has that slot. She smiles and says the schedule can bend for something real. Her tone is kind, but her eyes are exact. She is not a fan. She is a steward. It is the first time an adult in power watches me play and sees a person, not a product. I leave the venue and stop by the office to finish a memo. My manager pulls me into a conference room. He says the client wants me to lead a short training next quarter on vendor risk controls. It comes with a small stipend and a travel day. The number is $2,000 and a credit line on the internal site. I say yes. I add the date to my calendar. I do not tell my family, not because it is a secret, because I am done using good news as proof that I deserve basic respect. At home, I eat a simple dinner and sit back down at the keys. The opening of return now lands cleanly at tempo. I expand the middle by 2 measures to let the harmony bloom before the climb. I mark breath marks on the score even though I am not a singer. It helps me remember that my body is part of the sound. I record a take on my phone, I listen with headphones, and mark 2 places where my left hand surges. I write soften, I play it again. The take holds. I label the file May 16 version 3. Family behavior does not change. My mother emails me on May 12 with a fresh list of tasks. Confirm shuttle timing. Finalize the wine count. Draft a thank you note template. She writes, please handle. I complete the shuttle timing and the notes. I leave the wine count for Cass to approve with the caterer. When my mother nudges me, I reply that the caterer needs approval from the event owner. I keep the boundary in 1 line. She stops asking about the wine. She forwards a seating chart and asks me to fix the alphabetization. I send back a document with a clean sort and a note that the E names were filed under L by accident. She says thank you. No more. Cass is balancing the brand and the budget. On May 13, a vendor posts a shot of the ballroom with a caption that says final touches for Saturday. The comment section praises her taste. She texts me an hour later about a shortfall in a decor line. She asks if I can float $2,000 for a week. I say my credit is frozen and I cannot. She replies with a thumbs up. That is the end of it. 10 minutes later, she posts a reel about grace under pressure. I watch it once. I close the app, I go back to my score. What I am building starts to show up in small outside ways. A neighbor I barely know stops me in the hallway and says they can hear the piano sometimes. They tell me that on Tuesday they stood in their kitchen and cried. They say, please do not stop. I thank them and do not explain anything. A colleague asks how I manage to stay even when work gets loud. I say, I keep a clear file and a schedule I can repeat. It sounds too simple. It is the only reason I am still standing. 3 days before the wedding, I run return end to end without a single break. The ending lands like a breath I have been holding for 10 years. I press stop on my phone and write ready at the top of my log. I print 2 clean copies of the score. I put one in the folder. I put one in my piano bench. I lay my dress out. I pack flats for after the service. I check the packet in my bag. Score, police report, FTC report, bank dispute receipt. A simple 1-page summary of dates. I zip the bag and set it by the door. On May 17th, the Metro Ledger confirms a push alert for 5:32 p.m. the next day. Careful language, no accusation, just facts. Exactly what I want. A quiet sentence that stands in a room without raising its voice. That night, I practice return 5 times, steadying my breath. I tell the 16-year-old who once walked off stage that we are safe now, proof plan, and a seat in the light. My father texts, proud of you, 3 words. I reply, thank you, and keep the quiet for morning. Transformation isn't a montage. It's a ledger minutes, practiced measures, mastered, documents filed, dollars protected. By sunrise, I'm not background anymore about At Westbrook Hill Manor, I place my score and a folder of legal documents under the bench. The music begins as background. At 5:15, I play return. The air shifts, faces turn. The Metro Ledger alert hits at 5:32 AG, confirms complaints about the Hamilton Arts Foundation are under review. Phones light, eyes search, I keep playing. A process server delivers my mother a civil complaint identity theft conversion conspiracy. No scene, just a visible handoff in a room full of witnesses. Control shifts in silence. Dinner bends toward me. I play a condensed return, applause. My father repeats, proud of you. My mother stares at the envelope. The event moves forward, lawful, visible, undeniable. 3 days later, the bank closes the fraudulent line. The AG requests my documents. The foundation announces a governance review. 30 days later, Cass loses her job, sponsors drop, Patricia is placed on leave. 90 days in, my mother signs a $24,800 restitution settlement under court oversight. The AG secures $380,000 in restitution for shorted programs plus a $50,000 penalty. The foundation adopts tighter controls. I keep working vendor risk training, recording an EP, teaching piano. Family shifts quietly. Cass learns boundaries. My father becomes a witness and steady presence. I keep no contact with my mother. By the wedding's first anniversary, my case is closed, my credit score restored. I return to the same ballroom stage. The LED reads, Original composition by Avery Lee. The last note lands. My father stands first, then the room. It's not revenge, it's respect. Proof, boundaries, and a story rewritten without shouting.